Tune in right now, listen, find out your favorite stitch. Fashion with the Knit+Sip.
All right, we're going to work through 3 rows of Leeza's newspaper, and we are on an increase row. So I'm showing you here where I've just done an increase. Don't worry, you'll get to see the other side of that too. But then what I really want to show you is working the increases from the prior row. And so I thought about, do I just set this to music? But honestly, I have enough tips and tricks for you guys about this project that I think we're just going to chat while we're doing this. So the first thing I want to show you is working an increase. So this was our, what Leeza calls new kids on the block, our brioche knit, yarn over brioche knit. And we're working this in this next row. My goodness, my kitten will not stop talking to us too. She has lots to say. So what we're going to do is work this increase. And then this is not the particularly difficult part of this. It's actually the next round where things start to get interesting. So you can see here, so I brioche purled here. Let me back up so I can show you guys from the beginning of this section here. So I brioche purl 2 together here, and then I slip 1 yarn over. This is our increase. Purl the middle stitch and slip 1 yarn over. That is how you're going to work every single increase. And you'll get pretty used to that. However, the thing that you might not get used to is what it looks like the second time around. So that's why I want to do a few rounds with you guys, and I want you to see what this all comes out looking like. And while we're working this, you can just watch me brioche because it's actually pretty fun to watch, pretty fun to do. And we'll talk a little bit about some other tips and tricks from the project. So this is Piper, if you can see my cat. Hi, sweet girl. Yes, you're very cute. All right, so let's talk yarns. So we did this as a knit along for the store. And the great thing about that is that I got to see lots of different yarns being used. I got to have lots of different questions being asked, and I got to see lots of different mistakes being made. So working these increases is the most common mistake. And then next to that, it's dropped yarn overs close to your raglan markers. So we can look at that a little bit too. So let's talk yarns briefly. So I was speaking with someone last night who was using a woolen spun yarn, and she was saying that it was very sticky and she's needing to switch to her metal needles. I've heard that about a few more woolly wools from people, that if it's very sticky, this project is slower and more tricky. And then also I've heard, so I believe technically that the vision of this project was done in a light fingering weight yarn, but I have heard from people who are using more light fingering weight yarns that that's actually also quite tricky. It's just very thin. And so especially if you're not used to brioche, having that thin of a yarn can be tricky. So I love this yarn that Leeza's using, and I love the yarn that I used, and I can show you guys why here in just a second. It really has to do with the way that it's plied, the way it's spun. And so you can see in Leeza's yarn, and my yarn is the same, that there is a bit of a twist here. And my yarn's the same. So hers is Chelsea Yarns 80-10-10. I used Twist Nouveau from LBA, and both of the yarns are spun really similarly, applied really similarly. And oh, here we got an increase. So I'm going to show you how to work this too. So remember, it looks almost like we had 2 stitches there for a second because these are small and they can kind of stick together, but we've got our increase here. So let's make sure we work this correctly. Yarn over, slip 1 yarn over, purl 1, slip 1 yarn over. All right. So now you guys get to see me do an increase on this one. So I want to point out that when you do your raglan increases, unlike most other raglans that you've probably ever done, you are only doing your increases on where you are knitting with this color. So this is the color we are knitting with right now. It happens to be on her shoulders at the moment. And this is where we're doing our increases. Her increases for the front and back were actually done on the prior round. So you are increasing 8 stitches in total for your raglan increases. However, those 8 stitches are worked over 2 rounds instead of being worked over 1 round like we typically would in a raglan sweater. And that is because, again, we're only increasing in the sections you're knitting. So in one round, you're going to increase on your body, and in the other round, you're going to increase on your sleeves. So it just depends on whatever color you are knitting with at the time. So I'm going to keep working up to our next increase, and we're going to talk a little bit about superwash versus non-superwash yarns. Oops, that one slipped off. There we go. I can just pick it up. So I recently made, and you guys saw the Le Pouf cardigan, and I made it with actually a mixture of superwash and non-superwash yarns. And the interesting thing was, it's like I knew this, but then to see it happen was really interesting, is that the superwash yarn absorbed the dyes that bled and the non-superwash yarn did not. So if you are making this project, you might consider using a non-superwash yarn, because it would be so sad to get all the way through this and have your yarns bleed unless that's what you want. Now, I'm not very concerned about, this is a superwash merino, but it has some nylon and some cashmere in it. And I'm also not very concerned about these particular colors bleeding into each other. Okay, so we are at a point where we are doing a slip one yarn over here going into a raglan stitch, and that is where I will typically see a lot of people drop the yarn overs. So if you were thinking that you had a slip one yarn over before this, just make sure you kind of know that, because again, that's kind of the second most common error I've seen. All right, so now we're going to work this increase again. We're getting back to the beginning of the round. So I'm going to slip one yarn over. I'm going to purl one, not brioche purl one. I am just purling one. That's your center of your increase. And then I'm going to slip one yarn over again. So again, you are working that increase the same way every time. And you'll see that in the next round too. As we're working the increases we've done in this round, you'll start to see that. So I've definitely heard people, and Leeza's working on some Knit Picks wooden needles right now with this, and I've not heard her mention that it's sticky, but I do think just the nature of the yarn overs can create an opportunity where if you're comfortable working with metal needles, it might be a little bit faster to do that. I've definitely heard that feedback as well, as far as yarn choice and needle choice as you're working through this. I know that I've done my sleeves on a small circumference wooden needle, and I've definitely felt like it was quite a bit slower than when I was doing the body in the metal needle. So think about that too. So let's talk about the difficulty of this garment. So we chose this. So at the store, what we do is every year I put out in my newsletter voting for knit-alongs for the Rhinebeck sweater. And this garment got voted in for a knit-along, but not only a knit-along, for the store's Rhinebeck sweater. So this is what everyone chose to do. We are really not at a place where most people could do, for example, the ooey gooey in the time, between when it was released and Rhinebeck. So we chose ours, a long time ago and started this. So we're just finishing up this knit-along in advance of Rhinebeck. And this is, I think I mentioned this earlier, not only the first brioche garment most people have done, but it's also the first brioche anything most people have done. And so that has given me the opportunity to be able to learn how to fix brioche, which has been a cool experience. But for a lot of people, it definitely was something where they would have benefited from having done a hat or a cowl. And I did do a brioche class before this. It's just not everyone was available to take it. where we did a beginner cowl. So if you're going to attempt this garment, what would help you going in is to, here we are working an increase again, is to have done a garment just really so that you can actually get used to reading brioche before you do it in a garment. Because if you can read the stitches, things like the increases aren't going to be so much to take on. Okay, so here we are at our beginning of the round, and at every beginning of the round, I twist my working yarn over the yarn that I just finished the round with, and that's another good tip for you guys to lock in those slip-one yarn overs at the end of a section when you're, really at the end of the round, because you wouldn't do it every section. Okay, so just to reiterate to you guys how we're figuring out what we're doing, so I'm now switching where I'm working with her golden color, Chelsea Yarn's Favorite Leather Boots. And I can tell that the knit stitches in this section are done in what's Red Bank Chelsea. And so I'm not working with Red Bank Chelsea. So I know going in that I am going to start working this with a brioche pearl. Now, again, I'm showing you guys working this increase that we did in our last round. And what will be interesting for you guys to watch is to see us work the second round of increases. So like I said, we're going to sit here today and work 3 rounds of Leeza's garment. And it's not just the first round of increases, because the first round of increases is laid out for you guys in a way that I think you're going to, I have to move the cat, sorry. No. So we're going to be working, this is Astro. Seems like 2 of my 3 cats have decided they have to come visit us today. He's a kitten. He's the world's largest kitten, I swear. We think he must be, he is a rescue, but we think he must be some kind of a Savannah cat or something funny. All right, Pumpkin, you get out of there. So I'll show you working this other increase over here. And then, like I said, our interesting piece to this is going to be when we get to the other section and when we're working the increase for the second time, because I think you'll see why it's such a common problem. So we're working along and you'll see us work this increase for the second time here just on this next section. And this is really the critical part. So I have seen people both drop this increase as well as absorb this increase. And either way, we need to fix that. So let's look at that. So we're going to knit this and then we're going to come up to this right here. Okay. So we are coming up to the point where we are working the increase for the second time. We've got a slip-one yarn over right here. And then I think you can pretty clearly see that this is a brioche knit 2 together. But these are the other 2 stitches from our last round where we've worked the increase 1 time around. And it just does not look quite right. Like if you look at this right here in comparison to the next set that we're working, this 1 stitch in the middle where we purled, it just looks out of place. Now we are going to do a slip-one yarn over. That's how we work that. But like I said, for some reason that just really, really throws people off. I think that they are not quite understanding that this is not the first round after the increase. Because I think that they are looking at this and thinking that we've done an increase in every section, and that just is not the case. So for half of this, we're working an increase for the first time, and for half of this, we're working an increase for the second time. And I really think that that throws people off. We're coming up here where we're going to be working for the first time our increase again from our last round. Here's our increase from our last round. So we have slip-one yarn over, purl 1, split the stitch, and then slip-one yarn over, and now brioche purl 1. knit our raglan. All right, so here again is where we see this funky mess of coming up to our raglan increase for the second time. So we can pretty clearly see that so we've already done a slip one yarn over. We see that formed here. We see that there should be a brioche knit two together here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I don't feel like most people lose that piece of it, but this little funky part is what a lot of people lose, because you have your just purl stitch here. You're going to slip one yarn over for that purl stitch. But if you're trying to read your work, there's no slip one yarn over that's really been forming going down there. So that can be really tricky for people. And everybody seems to be missing that piece of it. And I think it's just something that you have to realize. Like, you think you're cruising along in your pattern and you're like, oh yeah, I'm working increases over here. And you're not. You're actually working the round after that increase. And so you're just supposed to create that. But if you can't tell, and we'll do our last one at the end of this section and you can see it again. And I'll show you again how it would be hard to read down your work in that part of it, because there isn't anything to read down. So you just have to realize what part of the pattern you're working and make sure that you work that as normal brioche and not as an increase, like you are working the increase in your other section where you're purling that middle stitch. One yarn over, this is going on the increase for the second time. So we've got that strange kind of little tiny purl stitch in the middle. We've got what pretty clearly is a brioche knit one here. You can read that down, but what we're forming here in the middle and what we're forming here off to the side aren't necessarily things you're reading down in your work. So we're going to make sure we do that slip one yarn over. Just stay in pattern. So don't break your pattern here. All right, so we've completed our first round where we've worked our increases for the second time. And now we're going to go back and work the increases in our contrast color for the second time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap the contrast color under my main color. And I'm going to continue on with this. And like I said, I will just set this to music because I don't really have much more to say about this. So we'll just kind of keep going on and you can watch. And if it helps you to understand this, then I hope it will make you feel more comfortable with doing this pattern. I would truly say that this is the most difficult part of this pattern, is figuring out these increases and doing that they happen, twice. And then we're working them twice and just figuring out where you stay in pattern and where you actually work an increase. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys, and happy knitting. Cheers.
It's my happy day, I want to sing it all the day. My best friends are always with me. We sing, we dance, we laugh, we are happy every day. Have fun with us, let's say happy, 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 happy. Happy, 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 happy. It is my happy day, I want to sing it all the day. My best friends are always with me. We sing, we dance, we laugh, we are happy every day. Have fun with us, let's say happy, 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 happy. Happy, happy, happy.
So thanks to kitten interference, I actually dropped a stitch so you guys get to see fixing brioche too. Okay, see how that is clearly incorrect? All right, so what we're going to do is we can tell that was a slip-one yarn over. That was a brioche knit one. So I've dropped a stitch on the slip-one yarn over. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my work because you're going to want to fix any mistakes from where it was your knit side. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and drop that down, and you can see how that is clearly dropped. And so I'm going to go up under here. We want to grab, goodness, thank you, Piper. I know you're very sweet. Okay. So we want to go under here. That one just kind of dropped out of there, but we want to go under here and grab what dropped there. So see how we went underneath the stitch? I can drop that down and show you guys again if it helps. So basically what I had here was I had a couple of drop stitches. So I went into that one, and that one's right there. That one's really, really easy to grab. But this one actually dropped all the way up there. What we have to do is we know that we want our one loop of our contrast color and our one loop of our main color there. Now, what I have to do is create that up here though, where it dropped. So I have to go under the main color, grab the contrast color that dropped because we want the contrast color to be what shows on our needle here. So I grab that, pull it through, put it back on. Okay, so now when we turn around, we're going to see that was our slip-one yarn over, and there we go. So drop stitch picked up. We have our main color with our contrast color loop on top, our main color with our contrast color loop on top. So we are all set. Okay, so that was our slip-one yarn over, but now I've actually dropped, in the process of fixing that, I've dropped our yarn over. I'm going to slip that stitch over to my right needle and go into the yarn over from front to back, slip that back over and kind of just reposition those. There we go. So see, it now looks like if you get confused about what that should look like, you can reference the next set that you're supposed to be working. So now those are lined up and we can brioche knit two together.
Tune in right now, listen, find out your favorite